Hello, welcome back to Blender LIVENODING. In this episode, I want to show you kind of like a way you can bring in point cloud into Blender and then using it with geometry nodes. So you can basically just easily instance the point cloud with color. Okay, so importing point cloud with color into Blender has been kind of like a problem as old as time itself. I mean, you can import the PLY, but if the PLY contains only points and vertex color, it's not gonna work inside Blender, because Blender actually needs mesh, kind of like mesh, and then with a mesh with polygon face, it can actually bring the color. Okay, so let's actually take a look what's going on here. So I actually have a cylinder being instance, but I can replace this with a cube. Now you can see it's basically just my hands reaching out into the computer. There's a keyboard there, but yeah, I scanned this one using the iPhone, with I think an app called Sidescape or Every Point app or Record 3D. One of those can capture point cloud. If you try to bring it into Blender using File, Import, PLY, normally you're just gonna get the points. You will not get the actual color. So what I did was to install an add-on, and the add-on is called, let's see, yeah, Import Export Photogrammetry add-on by Sebastian Bullinger. This one actually quite interesting, and in order to correctly import it, you need to install some dependency like point cloud, like so. Yeah, you need to basically enable it yourself, download and install some dependency. But anyway, I will explain to you in a bit. So there are two options if you want to import point cloud and visualize it inside Blender. Okay, there is this one from Blender Market from Jacob Ulik. The older version is available for free, the new one $75. This one is actually free, and yeah, this is the one that I'm using. So you're actually able to import some of like a call map or MeshLab, like call map to do like photogrammetry. You can import it into Blender like this. I haven't tried this. All I care today is just to import the PLY and then just bring it into Blender. Let me explain what's going on currently. Okay, so basically there are three ways you bring in the point cloud. The first one is this guy over here. This is actually an OpenGL. This is an OpenGL visualizations, and you can control the point cloud. This is actually from the add-on itself. So when you import the point cloud, you're gonna get either this one, which is OpenGL. You can take a screenshot, you can render, so that's no problem. The second way is actually this guy over here, which is a particle cloud or particle instance with the shapes. The shape itself is actually quite interesting, because the shape, when you import as particles using the add-on, you're gonna get particle that's already instanced, and the particle itself is getting a color from an image. Okay, it's quite elaborate. So the image is looking like this for each particle. So let's say if I have like 50,000 for each point cloud color, it's gonna apply the color into the particle using this method. This is actually using particle hair, so it's quite complex. So ideally, really, when you do like file, import, PLY, where is the PLY? The original PLY, Stanford PLY. You're gonna get just points without vertex color or anything. But if you use the new version, point data, you're gonna get the result that you wanted. Let me quit this one. I actually installed the point cloud data on the newer Blender 3.2. You can use this with 3.1 or 3.2. So preference, photogrammetry, and you can see with the dependency I already installed it here. So we have all the options for particle import. So if I do like file, import, point data, inside, if I try using Stanford, okay, let's try Stanford first. Hand, okay, this is my PLY, it's 777 KB. If I import it, we get the point cloud, but we don't get the color, no vertex color whatsoever. What's new with Blender 3.1 and 3.2, the latest one, however, if you use geometry nodes, you have a new options. That's really cool. We have point info. Okay, I mean point info in the shader, but you can basically turn mesh into point. Okay, so mesh to point. We still don't have color, so let's save this first. This is hand import no color. We don't have the color data or anywhere, but we have this already, and then we can use point to volume. Okay, this radius needs to be passed down in volume to mesh, so we are able to do this. So I can see my hands again. But anyway, today we're not gonna talk about remeshing. We're gonna talk about mesh to point, and we want to see this cloud of points. Okay, and we want to render this out. Apparently we can do that with cycles now. We can add light. So let's say this 0.005. Okay, we have points, and with the shader itself, if we apply a material, set material, and go to the shader, we can have point info nodes. Okay, if you plug this position into the base color, we get this kind of like rainbowish color. This is a imagine XYZ position. You just map it into RGB. This is pretty cool. You might want this. There is also radius, and there's random. Okay, this is fairly useful, but it's you can see how the points being rendered by cycles as sphere is very much like renderman. So this is pretty cool, and you can use any color. If you want to have like rainbowy color, you can use HSV and then clockwise or something, counterclockwise. Yeah, colorful rainbow. You can use metallic roughness. You have like balls. So this is cool and nice, and it's really efficient. But where's the color? Where's the color? I keep mentioning about the color. So let's get back to our example, or actually let me try to import. Yeah. File, import, where's the color? Point data, PLY, download, hand. Before I import, let's see the options. By default, there's one for OpenGL, there's one with particle system, and we can have cube or sphere. Let's try sphere. Set fixed particle color. That's okay, cool. add points as mesh object. Okay, this is new. Add color as custom property. Okay, that's really important. Let's import it. You're gonna be surprised. Yeah. So, like I said, there are 3 different one. First of all, OpenGL. Let's see if it's already imported. Yeah. So the point cloud, one of them is OpenGL. So this one is not like a real, it's not like a real data in Blender. So there's a data with Opengl Visualizations. Okay, and OpenGL, select our objects. Opengl Visualization. This is very similar to Ulik one. Let's hide this. So there's one with particles, with sphere. It's quite large, right? There's the particles shapes that you can scale and adjust. Or actually, in fact, this is actually a particles, right? Particles. So we can go to the particles itself, and I believe in the hair shapes, there's the scale that we can make it smaller. Yeah, one of them. But anyway, for the even though with the particle points, it's looking kind of too big. This one, I think. Yeah, that's the scale. This is particle, and the particle will actually render, of course, which is good, and that's what we want. If you just want to use the particles, you just want to render this out, you can just use the particles. Particles will instance the sphere, and so we have the result. But I think even with particles, we don't actually get the light. It might get some light to react with the sphere instance. I think it does, but I think just for simplicity's sake, I mean, ideally when we import the points, it's gonna convert it into geometry nodes, and with the Vertex Color, etc. Right? So currently we don't have that because the point info doesn't have color yet. So yeah, let me just delete this first. It's gonna take a while, maybe. Okay, it's doing something. So let me explain what's going on with the last example. File, open, and point cloud. Okay, you can see SVerchok is doing something. So I'm using SVerchok magic. Okay, so there's a bit of SVerchok happening. So this is the point cloud. I instance some boxes here without the random. So when you import it using the add-on, something cool happens. Okay, so there is something inside this mesh. It is actually saving the color, not the Vertex Color here. So not yet. This is just something else. I think I opened the wrong one. This guy. File, save as. Okay, this should be the one. Inside this mesh, there's a custom attributes. It's called this one, colors. Okay, there are 51,776 items. So that's the color for each point. And you can actually print this out. You can access the data. Colors, right? So those data It's like an array, like a dictionary, and you can list it. That's the color. That's the RGBA data. Okay, that's the value over there. Since we can access it, there's a single liner here that I use with SVerchok. So this is using recursive. So for every RGBA data per points, just append this into a list and then use it inside SVerchok and then pass it into geometry nodes. Okay. Look, from our point cloud object, use the exact node mode. This is SVerchok thing. It's very, very interesting, very powerful. It's gonna look at the list and then just unpack it. Okay, it's unpacking the RGBA. Look at this, using list split, and with the color out RGBA, it's gonna divide it with 256 because it's RGB. Color goes in, and use it and assign it into geometry nodes attribute. Okay, this nodes does the processing. If you are done with this, just delete. Okay, just let me show it again. Very important, very cool. So once we're done, let's say, okay, you say, okay, I don't want to recalculate the value anymore because the value is now inside geometry nodes. This is actually what I want with the Addon developer. If you are watching this, you can perhaps just import the point cloud and kind of create a geometry nodes and save the Vertex Color into the Vertex anyway, you know, like because points, Vertex Color, that's what we want. It's transferred now as a color X. And now inside geometry nodes, you can see I have a cube instance on the points with radius of 0.01, capture the value and then rotate randomly and then realize it. Okay, we need to realize the instance, assign the shader, and under the shader just pass in the call X point color into the objects. So finally we have the color. We have the color on the point cloud. You can evaluate the RGB before we realize the instance. You can look at the point cloud instances actually. You can see the RGB as a call X. The call X is from SVerchok. So it's from points, once again, from points into the instancing. Since we don't have point info yet, that's why I'm using instancing, okay? And then I need to realize instances, turn it into a mesh, and with the mesh, we finally can assign the color. So for each instance now, it's getting the color from the point cloud. Now I can see my hands again, reaching out the keyboard. Point cloud is really interesting and it's really cool. This is like a sparse, there is like a sparse and dense point cloud that you can capture on the iPhone. This is like a sparse one. It's kind of abstract looking, and really you can play around with the instance here. You can instance some donuts. You can instance like maybe like leaves or anything, you know, like maybe like circle even. It's really fast because it's geometry nodes, and yeah, it's really, really efficient. So you can really replace this with something funky like quadrilateral with fill hole with the N-gon instance. This is too big. Now it's becoming like leaves, I believe. Yes. Height 0.03, 0.001. Yeah, it's looking like a kite, like a with color, which is really pretty, and this is what you want. Now you can add sunlight. It's gonna react to the light. And you can also make it metallic, roughness. You can play around with this, all this. So that's my point. In order for this to work 100%, the add-on can do a little bit more, just create a Vertex Color, just pass the data, and that should be easier for us to use inside geometry nodes. But I think if you wait just a few months or a few weeks, file import ply will give you something similar to this. But if you want it today, then this method using SVerchok, I think is quite cool. Look at this. SVerchok is calculating, get the data that's coming from the photogrammetry importer, get those data, and then pass it into geometry nodes. And then once you're done with it, just delete this. And now you can work with geometry nodes. So again, to show you the whole craziness, this is, like I said, tale as old as time. This problem, I mean, 10 years ago, I wish we have this, but you know, there's like a development time. Good things will take some time. You know, you have to be patient. Now, finally, we can do this today. I think I did something. I think this resolution might be too much. This is supposed to be the instance of donuts, but you can use Suzanne. Maybe I should reload it. For the donut, probably the donut is probably too high res because doing the calculations. Maybe just use Suzanne or like a simpler donut. Scale it to 0.01. This donut. Decimate. Okay, this donut. And we have our objects. This is our donut. Assign all transform. Plug this in. Instance. Okay, it's gonna take just a second. We can scale this using many ways. Now we have this bubble. This torus. Let's create another light, sunlight. If you like, I can do the same thing and from scratch, you know, like just doing the scanning using the iPhone. I'm gonna show you that, and then export it from the iPhone app into Blender and then import it, and then just simply using this SVerchok magic. Yeah, it's gonna do the job for us. It's really interesting. I mean, in fact, you might want to study with this mesh how the data is actually stored as Python color. This is really interesting. So the type is a Python. This is the value. Save the custom property as colors. This is something that people has been talk about. Something that will go into geometry nodes. So you can have objects with all these custom properties to create like a variance of an object using these properties, and then just pass it into geometry nodes, and then also use it as attributes. Alright, so that's the whole idea basically. So it's really powerful in Blender. Alright, so hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.